Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Timber Sycamore. It's your hosts
This is Haydn DePriest,
and Michael Petroselli.
and we had some interesting little. God, I have because it's fucking restream. I got to turn my gain up. There we go.
I have you cranked to 126 on my end, so you might be significantly louder than you think. By the way,
Okay, well, I'll trust you on that. Just want to make sure that it's actually. But in any case, we had some technical difficulties earlier, but now we're back.
yeah, um, it's yeah. So we're here today to talk about Burkina Faso and the deaths of a whole bunch of Russian businessmen all at once.
Okay,
Obviously not all at once, but like
pretty
if it
quickly.
happens fast enough.
Oh my
Um,
God, Suda just offered Nusha to join Timber Sycamore within 10 seconds of him being active in the chat again. Oh
what?
my God, he just did it. He just put her in the chat. All right, Mike, we got four members now. Deep breaths, Mike. Deep breaths. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Fuck's sake!
Mike, we are live.
I don't care.
So I got a new haircut today, everybody. What do you guys think?
I actually like your new haircut. It's the one bright spot in my day right now.
Okay, cool. I thought about getting a Nazi haircut, but I decided to let that go for another 6 months or another 6 weeks. I honestly
Inspe-
go. I can go 6 months without a haircut sometimes.
uh, I can't. My hair grows very fast.
So does mine. I always go for styles like this where it's like I always every time I go in they're just like, "Oh, you want to change your whole look up." And I'm just like, "Yeah. Yeah, I'm not poor or anything like that."
Bro, my sides get long and I start to look like I'm the fucking clown from The Simpsons, so I can't just like rock that.
Oh yeah. It's always the sides that are the problem. Hey, can you see chat? Yes, we can finally see chat. Mike wants to keep chat like open just on our phones, like we're troglodytes, and I'm just like, no.
I no, I just always have a chat like thing on the side.
No, for me, I'm like a director, so I like to have I only want to have to look at one thing on the screen. What
No,
are
like
you covering?
it's literally all on the same screen.
Yeah, sure, but
I'll show you what mine looks like.
I don't need to see it. I believe you.
So we're going to be covering Burkina Faso and then the deaths of a whole bunch of rich people in Russia. And when we say rich, we don't mean like your like rich neighbor. We mean like
Suda says he can't hear me.
multi-billionaire. Suda's a dumbass. Why does that matter?
I mean, I just want to be clear. That's what's being said.
Try again.
Are y'all liberal or conservative leaning or apolitical? We're fascists.
We're not. We're
We
communists.
are. We're crypto fascists.
We're crypto communists. We
We're
pretend to be
crypto
fascists. We're
communists.
actually communists.
Yeah, that's true. It's the ultimate. What's the word? Jape. I almost said the other one. All right.
uh, you should be. Can everyone hear Hayes?
Yeah. Well, everyone, you're loud as hell. Suda just says that every single time. I can hear his ice over you voice. That's because you were freaking the fuck out earlier. The ice was really loud.
Yeah, he's lucky that's all he heard of that.
Oh my god. Well, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, Suda just did a little, just tried a little coup d'etat.
Yeah, Suda just did a thing, and I'm not happy about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even like the thing itself is super odious. It's just like going behind Mike's back to do it is a little.
And
You
it's
gotta.
gonna and it's gonna be super annoying.
Mike, do you see what the problem was with you saying that this was a partnership?
What?
Because if it's a partnership between you and me, that also means it's a partnership between you, me, and Suda.
No, Suda hasn't contributed anything to the team
Okay, so it's just you and me then.
until Suda gets here.
Okay. Well, Nusha's gonna be really busy with her like law stuff, so I don't think she's gonna.
She's
We're
gonna
not
be
gonna have.
really busy getting notes written for her in her fucking sleep on her phone.
Yeah, the CIA could do her homework for her.
Yeah, fucking ask for a favor. Um, what do you mean by anti-Russia?
Y'all are anti-Russia, correct? No, we're not pro-Russia.
I would say that I like have a general feeling that Russia is not awesome, but not that it is terrible. Like
Like
it is a bourgeois state.
if you want to ask us a specific question about Russia, you are encouraged to do so, and we will answer
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I am more than happy to give like specific feelings.
I don't even call myself a communist anymore. I just, I'm not pro or against anything as like a general rule.
I'm
I just
against
like
some things.
I like to look at the data. I was telling Mike the other day, I'm like a my ultimate dream is to be like a Nate Silver kind of guy, but way cooler.
Right now, I'm leaning aggressively towards anti-sobriety,
Yeah, we're pro alcohol. I'll tell you that much.
pro cigarettes,
Pro cigarettes, pro stimulants. We live for drugs. We
anti-weed.
drink. Anti weed. That's true.
This is an alcoholics podcast, not a weed podcast.
Cigarettes, alcohol, and 0-calorie energy drinks.
Q needs your email, by the way.
Okay.
So,
Is he on Twitter?
yeah.
Got it.
So, do you want to start with Burkina Faso or with Russia?
Start with either one.
All right. So we'll go left to right, which is Russia first. So, there's been a slew of deaths in Russia of very, very insanely wealthy businessmen, right?
Mm-hmm. And what's
Um,
the time frame we're looking at here?
so around January, February, I didn't have time to order them all. I like had time to write them all down though. So September 13th, dude who works for Gazprom falls off a boat. February 8th, uh, Nosev dies of a stroke. He's also a former Gazprom. He also works with a dude who's going to come up a little bit later at a different. No, I don't support any money going to Ukraine.
All of the money that's gone to Ukraine anyway has been in the form of lend-lease, so it's not even aid. It's just grifting off of the misery of millions. So
yeah, it's like the U.S. war profiteering. It's not great.
yeah, no. So we are against war profiteering. Evening, Alex.
I'm also anti a no-fly zone because that is asking for like direct military conflict. I, for one, hate the idea of direct military conflict with Russia.
Well,
I
I don't know.
hate the idea.
Go
Like
ahead.
I hate the idea of there potentially being like an open military conflict with Russia. At least in part because last time we had real COs, they shipped them down to Utah and blasted them with chemical weapons, and I'm very anti that happening to me.
I was gonna say, Mike, with that cardigan you're wearing, I feel like everywhere you go is a no-fly zone.
Uh,
The zone
this
where
is great.
there's no being fly.
It's a great cardigan. I don't
Yeah,
care.
no, it is. I just wanted to make the joke.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's a good joke.
You're
So
allowed to. So the issue with all of these deaths is that at some point we have to, 2 points is a line, 3 points is a no. I don't support sanctions on anybody. That's economic warfare. We don't.
No, like sanctions are not the way to go about this. It's
Yeah,
especially
sanctions starve poor people.
yeah. So especially odious was the people who were trying to like institute sanctions and then were barring like any Russian refugees fleeing Russia coming into Lithuania, which is if you wanted to like the idea of economic sanctions is that you're trying to weaken the country, you're trying to weaken like the economic infrastructure from the top down, like focusing on everything, and you want to in order to weaken the country, one of the best ways to weaken it is to institute a massive labor and brain drain. Because that's who's going to have the means to leave Russia and flee, right? It's going to be educated people, like middle, maybe upper middle class, who are going to try and flee into Europe and, find better lives over there. So to instead say, no, you can't do that, all of these, like these human resources, like the resources of like labor, resources of like this,
Why would
like
I defend
educated
Ukraine?
people, like they are not. Hayes, your sound is too low. I fucking
Yeah,
told you, Michael.
you're gonna have to bump it on your end. I have you at 150.
Bump yourself.
I
This
have
is
you
why
at
we
one.
need the fucking OBS, dude. I hate Restream.
What do you mean bump myself? I am down to 78, and you are at 150.
Get a better microphone. I don't even know anymore.
It's not that I'm too loud; it's that you are quiet.
No, it's not. Like, well, the problem is that like you are loud, like just in person, but like also that your microphone is like picking up everything.
Right, but I wasn't like speaking while you were speaking.
No,
They just can't hear you.
Yeah, no, studio microphones are like they're supposed to be quieter because they don't clip.
I am gonna get a new microphone. See, you turned your volume up. Now you're better.
Yeah, but like now it's gonna. I don't know. Like I try to have the gains all the way up, so it's gonna pick up more just noise in the room, which I don't like. It's not gonna be super bad, but it's just like I'm picky about that.
Suda, everything about you is shit right now. Don't talk.
Wait, is Suda Jason Rodriguez?
No, he's in the group chat.
Suda, go on Twitch and comment there. We're not.
Be a normal fucking human being for once.
I am not like we have to pull up your window separate from everything else.
So,
No, but if you have sanctions, but you're also like barring any refugees, you're basically trapping Russian citizens in Russia, saying, "Oh, it's your responsibility to overthrow Putin." Like that is akin to genocide. That's because you're burning. When you do sanctions, you are burning down the Russian house, and now you are saying that anybody who's trapped in that house can't leave. Well, it's your house. You should put the fire out. Fucker. Like, no.
Right.
That's why we don't support sanctions. As a general rule.
On the topic of economic warfare, very quickly these deaths start to shape up to look like that, especially in light of Nord Stream.
Mm-hmm.
So most of these people are either oil or gas executives. There's a couple exceptions. One of them is like the president of the equivalent of the Russian Import-Export Bank, which is, whatever. Like a fucking charity position for rich people. What do you mean you would support them letting in? Why would people? First of all, who is fleeing China? Second of all, so all of the people who left Taiwan and went to Britain realized they didn't have like slaves anymore, and they went back to Taiwan very quickly because they couldn't afford the same quality of life in Britain that they can afford in Taiwan. That was like a huge news story a couple weeks ago. I saw it all over fucking red pepper emoji Twitter. They were so proud of it. Which, like, I get it on the one hand. Like, yes, congratulations. Objectively, China has a better quality of life than most of the West now.
Did I miss something? Did I miss the part where Taiwan was part of China? Like, outside of the red pepper jerking off about, like, the actual, like, it's politically administered
China can't invade Taiwan or Hong Kong.
Okay, that's a different story. I'm like they're claiming asylum from Taiwan though, which is administered by the ROC, right?
Yeah.
I guess I missed the story about that being actually now it's administered by the PRC all of a sudden. If that was the case, I just out of curiosity.
Like ostensibly, Taiwan is not an independent liberal democracy. Taiwan is at best an independent illiberal democracy. And pretty much always has been. Like, it exists primarily as a force of reaction.
But this podcast, by the way, is not in favor of the Xi Jinping government by any means.
No. I'm not here to defend. Like, the fact is that there are legally binding agreements that make Taiwan the legal responsibility of China, which makes China the government of Taiwan. You cannot invade somewhere that you are already a part of, or like you can't invade a part of yourself for the same reason that like I couldn't invade my own hand. Like, just because my hand is a distinct thing that you can readily identify does not mean that it is not a part of my whole body.
I mean, not legally speaking, it's not an independent country. It is de facto independent in the sense that it's been independently administered for several decades now, but it is
Yeah,
not.
they get left alone, but that does not make you independent.
They are. It's de facto independent. We're speaking about like a. This is kind of a legal. It's kind of a legal mire that we're kind of wading
You
into
should,
here.
so Jason, you should read William Hinton's,
Fanshin,
no,
the other
also
one.
Fan Shen. But so Fan Shen is his time spent living with revolutionaries in China during the Cultural Revolution, the Great Leap Backwards.
We
We
need
don't need
regime.
regime change.
Well, it's not a question of regime change. It's a question of international recognition.
If you think that regime change is the answer led by the US, you should go listen to our podcast where we talk about the US's role in regime change. It goes really well. It's great. The US does a great job whenever they do it, and it
Mike,
never fucks up anything.
Mike, your sarcasm is not reading, but okay.
So, on the subject of economic warfare against Russia, whether in the form of sanctions or in the form of physical warfare that is still economic, there have been a lot of oil and gas executives who died, and then that was an attack on Nord Stream. The most recent one to die, as far as I could tell, seems to be either September 13th or 14th.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the dates on who dies first get fuzzy. The guy who died the 14th was found the 14th, but may have been dead for up to 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets, like, that's dicey. I'm not here to make that call. The first one that I can see is January 30th.
I want to clarify that like the issue in Taiwan and China has nothing to do with like the regimes. It's a question of if Taiwan has regime change, then it would still the situation would be the same. Like it's about international recognition. It needs the PR say like it's a little bit more complicated than that, but I don't know. It's just not a. It's not the actual solution. Like even ignoring the typical consequences of regime change.
Yeah, like ignoring the consequences of regime change and the fact that it would put us directly at war with China, likely, which would be bad for everyone.
Like the war with China would probably absolutely destroy everybody's standard of living across the entire world before like a force of ground troops would even land. Like the economic fallout from that would alone
Yeah, that's
just
assuming
be
that no
absolutely
nuclear weapons
devastating.
fall before ground troops land.
Like before the even like first foreign troop sets foot in China or even the United States, like the world is already fundamentally transformed in a way that is completely unseen. Yeah, it's a bummer. It would be a bummer. It would suck ass.
Really fuck up my good time.
Harsh the vibes.
So there's two dudes who
Yeonmi Park.
nice.
I like this guy. I'm gonna be honest.
Me too. I think he's funny, kind of.
This is a troll, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my god. Laura, what are you doing?
She's rolling cigarettes for me right now.
God, you live like fucking Scarface. Are you kidding me?
No.
You've got a. God damn, his girlfriend's rolling cigarettes for him in the other room. That's insane.
She's not in the other room. I can see her right now.
Oh, she's in the same room. Is she counting
Yeah.
your money too?
Yeah.
What the
Yeah,
hell?
that's what I call her getting a paycheck, her counting my money.
Oh, Jesus.
Um,
I'm gonna get my rings real quick.
That is a joke. My girlfriend is much more successful and also probably cooler than me. I try to get her to come on the stream all the time. She won't. Uh, Not because she like hates everyone on it, but just because she uh, always says she's not an expert on things. And she thinks that matters a lot more than it does because she doesn't have a Twitter. Right, Hayes?
Absolutely.
Laura thinks her not being an expert matters more than it does because she doesn't have a Twitter.
No, like the Twitter is most important for. Yeah, I found Yanmi Park from Joe Rogan, but later watched her on Lex Friedman. All right. What does Yanmi Park do? Is she a PhD? Is she a professor?
Isn't she an expat, like a DPRK type expat?
Mike, that was the joke.
Oh.
Yeah, Yanmi Park is like a Bana Alabed type.
Yeah.
Like she's made her living off of like telling stories about North Korea, some of which are true, some of which are false.
Yeah, she's like the foreign defector equivalent of Juan Guaido.
And it's not even a question of like, oh, we are big, supportive patriots of the DPRK, and
Thanks,
they are telling imperialist lies about the DPRK, but like some of it is like just like it's provably false in the like it's sensationalist journalism to some degree, which is probably the ultimate motivator behind some of those stories, not because they are imperialist devils trying to slander the great nation, but just because they're just like, oh, they don't know what Africa is? That's a great story. I'm just not going to fact check it because people will read it.
I liked when they said that there were only 4 haircuts you were allowed to have.
Is this one of them?
No. Also, that you could be executed for wearing leather because Kim Jong-un likes to wear leather. I don't know what a MAGA communist is.
Yes. Whatever that is, I'm that.
You're not.
Yeah, MAGA. What does MAGA stand for?
Make America gay again.
Yeah. Make Asia great again.
I actually know for a fact that you have to be trolling because there is no way that, like, you would fool Ayan. Ayan Hirsi Ali is A, obscure, and B, like, oh no, he's not Has.
Is Hayes a man? Oh, Has. Yeah, I'm not Has on Twitter. I'm a different guy.
No, Suda hasn't had sex, but Hayes has had sex. I also admire people who were on PragerU and did Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I was on PragerU once.
Were you?
Yeah. Yeah, I had a great time. I talked to Mr. Dennis Prager. I was hanging out with Ben Shapiro.
It was you, Dennis Prager, and
I don't know, Cernovich. Is he on PragerU? Has he been on PragerU?
I don't know. Who are the PragerU people these days?
Well, Cernovich converted to Islam, so. Oh, Jordan Peterson was on there. Okay, yeah, Jordan and I would get along well. We'd have a lot of fun.
Jordan and I would get along well because I would tell him that, yeah, Hayes doesn't know that women only have 2 holes.
What do you mean they only have 2 holes? Hold on.
That's a real thing that Has said one time.
Oh. But they have, I mean, maybe the women he's with. I don't know.
There's still more than 2. Like, there's no person who only has 2 holes.
Oh my God! Every person. Oh my God! Every woman. Like, what was the joke? Every woman has 9 holes, but you can have sex with 3 of them. Some of you are laughing. Most of you are counting. Trying to figure it out. 2 nostrils, 2 ears. I guess the 2 eyes. Yeah.
So, looking at PragerU, they advance Judeo-Christian values, whatever the fuck that means. It's not even that I dislike Has. I just, like, I don't know him. I've never met him. I'm sure he's probably a person.
He's a friend of the pod, yes.
I've seen, like, 3 of his tweets. They sucked. but that's true for most of Twitter. Like, if I have only seen 3 of your tweets, there's a 50-50 shot I saw your best tweets or your worst tweets, right?
Judeo-Christian values, just Old Testament values. I would say those are just Jewish values.
Yeah, I would say that Judeo-Christian values are specifically like dominionist values.
Yeah.
Like, whether that is Catholic integralism or like, fucking Seven Mountains Pentecostalism, like, it's still like, those are the only people I ever hear really bang on about Judeo-Christian values.
Well, I mean, it's also like I think it's fair to, well, not really. It depends on the actual context of the question. I always think people who are very into calling it, well, you can't call it Judeo-Christian because, like, that just others Islam. It's Abrahamic. I'm like, to be fair, Islam comes from a sort of, like, half-separate tradition from Judaism and Christianity, which are, like, a little bit more intimately connected with each other.
Right, because as we discussed, it's like tied to Buddhism and some other things as well as Christianity and Judaism.
Well, Islam itself is like a sort of a, I don't want to say like a syncretic religion, maybe quasi-syncretic, but like it really arises out of, it's more connected probably to Zoroastrianism and tribal, like pre-Islamic tribal religions that sort of mix together with other, not even just Christianity and Judaism as we think of them as established traditions today in terms of like Nicene Christianity and Rabbinic Judaism, but like also like the kind of like folk Semitic religions that those two arose from in general. So the way that people have been able to say this is because there are stories about Abraham.
Right, like Druze.
Yeah, there are stories about like Abraham and Isaac that are in the Bible that are also in the Quran. And there are some that are in the Bible that don't ever make it into the Quran. But then there's a couple that like are in the Quran that don't ever appear in the Bible. And the reason they don't appear is because these are still other stories that were popular about Abraham and Isaac at the time. Meaning that there's like this kind of like larger canon of like Abrahamic stories, some of which make it into the Bible, some of which just make it into the Quran, and others which make it into both.
I'm honestly super into the idea of like just an Abrahamic canon that somebody is like sitting there and debating the way they do Western canon and being like, we don't need to listen to old Abrahamic men.
Send Suda the invite link. Let's call his fucking bluff. Let's do it.
Absolutely not.
No, you're not gonna send him the link?
No, nobody wants to watch me scream at Suda on stream.
Oh, you're gonna scream at Suda once this is over.
Yeah, I'm very angry at him still.
Oh my god. I had already forgotten about it.
I have not.
Well, it's like it's not gonna be it's not gonna be of any consequence, I promise you. Whatever.
Hinduism is definitely not the one true religion.
And it's the official religion of this stream. You said it with such confidence that I kind of want to go through with that. This is a Vedic stream now. Sorry.
Well, when you start inviting morons onto the show, I get upset about it. When you start inviting people who are literate onto the show, I'll be more happy about it. But until then, some of us believe that God or the CIA is writing messages to us on our cell phones while we sleep to give us writing prompts. So, I find that very laughable.
All right.
And just because you want to sit there and simp for some chick, nope. Don't get me involved in that shit.
Let's move on.
I can make my own fucking problems. I don't need help.
I think I am going to ignore that. Let's not fight on the stream. We have content. We have content to do.
No, I am not religious. Nor have I ever really been in my like very early teen years. I kind of got into Catholicism, and then I read the Bible front to back, and went up to my mom and was like, "Mom, God is not a good person. I just wanted to let you know that."
That's what they say. God may judge us, but God might judge us, but His sins outnumber ours.
Oh no, this won't be a little fight. It will be a big fight.
So I have speaking of religion, I've got this. I found this sailor wheel ring at the antique store. It's like a cheap fucking ring that I think I saw on like eBay, probably from like Shein or something. I don't even know. But it's got the wheel on it, and I was like, this reminds me of the Wheel of Dharma, the Eightfold Path. And it reminds me about like all those Buddhists that I know that are like always telling me, oh, embrace Zen, be gracious. So that's why I put it on my finger, so every time that you see me do this to you, it's a reminder to be gracious. You know? This is a symbol of peace. I mean,
Sure.
this one's got a dragon on it. I call him Leviathan.
You're also definitely not Greek Orthodox. I've never seen someone who is Greek Orthodox say the word Greek Orthodox Christian.
Oh, maybe it's Evelyn.
Yeah.
Hi, Ev. Welcome to the stream. Well spun. You have a future in advertising. I hope you mean me.
So, as part of the U.S.'s economic warfare against Russia, the only conclusion I could really come to is they are killing off executives of foreign companies. What are you Orthodox Jewish? What you have to be born to an Orthodox woman to be baptized? Is that what you're saying? I'm very confused here.
No, I mean like that's a fair thing. It's just like, well, my parents are Greek Orthodox, and my mom, it's how I was baptized. Have you ever, I assume that those people, just like Catholics, would be a little bit more. For example, my mother was grew up like a Protestant. My dad grew up Catholic. I'll give you one guess to how I was baptized.
Catholic.
Absolutely. It wasn't even my dad's idea. It was because of my. It wasn't even his mother. It was his grandmother, Grandma Brown, my great grandmother. That meant that he could not live, like he couldn't live with himself while she was alive if he didn't baptize me Catholic. Are you a cultist? He is.
Who?
You.
I'm a cultist.
Yeah, we are a cult. I am a cultist.
Yeah, I am a cultist. I'm not an occultist.
We have our own cult.
We do.
Yeah.
So part of this economic warfare, so these deaths seem to come in ways that would be, if someone described them to you, you would be like, oh, that sounds like it is a Three Stooges bit that went wrong. So we have a man who falls off a boat into the propeller of the boat. Nobody saw it happen. We have a 43-year-old who dies of a stroke. Mr. Maganov falls from a window. The comment that is put out immediately after that is that he died after a long fight with illness.
Was illness the name of his assassin?
Illness is like, it is true that he died after a long fight with illness in the most technical sense of that term. What is also true is that illness pushes really hard when it's near a window, apparently. I don't know. Another guy is found dead, direct quote, after visiting a shaman to provide an herbal hangover cure.
Can we move the culture logo away from the chat?
Yeah, I can. Can I like move it around the screen? No, but I can just get rid of it.
Yeah, everybody knows that we're part of the culture.
Yeah.
We do not hide that.
Chulikov dies by suicide on February 25th. Interestingly, January 30th, Sabotin, who works for Lukoil rather than Gazprom, is also found dead there. And then there's another suicide there on January 30th. Okay, maybe. Finally, we have 2 murder-suicides. In both cases, the man spontaneously decided to kill his wife and daughter, seemingly with no explanation. Mikhail Watford in England dies, who is a Russian-born expat to England. Malnikor, owner of Medstom, which is a medical supply company, is found dead with his family.
Bojimwe.
uh, which is weird. So he's like, they don't call it a murder suicide. They never imply that. He is found dead in the yard outside of his house, and his wife and child are dead inside of the house.
So what industries are most of these oligarchs connected to?
Most of them are oil and gas.
Oil and gas. And so this all precedes the actual
Nord Stream attack.
alleged sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline.
Yeah.
I thought you said Nordstrom attack.
History. No, Nord Stream.
Yeah.
Would be funnier if I said Nordstrom, though.
Yeah, that's the... I've got to walk through Nordstrom's every day, so...
You're on your way to Clark, so I'm not surprised that there's a Nordstrom's on the way there.
Yeah. I'm also not surprised that... You're probably also not surprised that some people find me to be very terrorist-looking while I'm wearing my Clarks.
So I guess that really what you could say all is happening
Pro-Russia, I think. Oh my god, Michael.
I've been waiting for 2 fucking days to be able to play Sabotage
Go ahead.
on an episode.
Fine, go ahead.
What was the other one that I wanted to play for? Oh, because we did the Nord Stream stream.
How about Israel? Pro-Ukraine, I would imagine.
When you just say the words "How about Israel," there's like a 15-year-old version of me in the back of my head, just like screaming, "There's no country called Israel," and like,
come on, dude, let's not.
Even though I know that that's like an insane stance to hold and very childish, because you don't just deny reality.
Yeah, we have to. That's the point I wanted to make about Taiwan, is that Taiwan is, is de facto an independent country, but also to accept reality is to accept China cannot invade Taiwan, like, realistically. Like, that's not what you would call it. Even though they are de facto.
Right, it would be a civil war.
We don't. Oh, China, like, like when people are just like, going to talk about like, oh, why is the U.S. like putting ships in the strait to protect one part of China from another part of China? Because Taiwan, like, let's be so let's let the adults in the room talk for a little bit,
Right. So this is not the first time that we've seen mass die-offs to achieve a political goal. Because you can't really call them mass killings, because most of the time they aren't ruled to be murder.
And we don't know that they're
murder. Some of them we're pretty sure. Some of them we know they're murders, they're just never solved.
Which ones do we know that are murder?
So what we're leading into is other examples of this same thing happening.
So we don't have any, like, for the current situation at hand, anything?
So there's at least 2 of the, like, actual murders are unsolved.
Like in the Russia situation?
Yes.
Okay.
The one where the guy dies outside of the house, they were like, well, it might be suicide, but we're not sure. And the other one...
Yeah, almost certainly.
Yeah, right. And the other one is there's a man named Rosvirin who's found under a window with a knife and a gas can laying next to him. And it appears that like local police and federal police seem to disagree on whether he was killing himself by jumping out of a window, and he just happens to live in like fucking Grand Theft Auto and landed next to a gas tank and a knife.
Mm-hmm.
Or if he's a real person who lives in the world and was probably threatened with those, or beaten with them, or stabbed with them before his death. The federal police are very convinced that he was murdered. And local police had already closed the case. So I was waiting to see how that one goes.
We will see. You still haven't played your song yet.
I did. I played it for a second. I didn't want to play the whole thing all the way through. I just wanted to hear them yell at sabotage.
I didn't hear it. Did anybody else hear it?
I might not have turned it on. I don't care. I'm fine with that. I got to hear it, and that's what counts. I wasn't playing it for all of you. So what all of this builds up to is that this is a trend in ruling class praxis, right? Come up to this point where either the operation that is or was undertaken is so overwhelmingly large that it has to be resolved with violence often, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what ends up happening is when we look back, so we're going to look at two other examples of this. The first one starts in 97 and ends in 2003, 2005 maybe. Debatably, you could go as long as 2008 with the death of Dr. Bruce Ivins. But the main bulk of what happens is between 97 and 2003. And the other one occurs in the mid-2010s. So in the first one, what we see is in the days leading up to both like a very clearly coordinated and orchestrated war in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as the anthrax attacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
We start to see this assault going on against like a certain level of human dignity and human decency amongst doctors. And I guess that you could really say that we were like our medical system was bad. I had to.
Yeah, well, you had to the first time.
I almost didn't because Suda told me to.
He got his wish anyway.
So during this
Amerithrax.
Time period, yes. So there will be an Amerithrax video essay coming out. I've been working on it for an incredibly long time and put an absolutely batshit insane amount of effort into it.
Is that the one that I'm going to be editing?
Yes.
Cool.
At least you get to hear the Amerithrax video essay rather than like a boring one.
Yeah. So it's going to be. So he's going to have me give it the Jinx treatment, which will be cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole video essay is going to look like a Jinx movie. It's going to be 30 minutes of Jinx.
Oh,
so
God. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can pull that off.
Everyone, get ready to be schizophrenic after 30 minutes. It'll be great.
I think that Jinx videos are like a controlled substance. I don't think you can like actually, you can't take like 5 pills at once. It's too much.
I've never found a drug I couldn't take 5 times what you were supposed to take of.
You are built of sturdy stuff, my friend.
Yeah, heroin addiction.
Yo, shout out to heroin.
No, it's a bad drug. It's not fun. And I guess it is at first, but like then it gets really bad.
Well, it's created the content for us. Oh, by the way, get ready to turn me down because now that you're smoking, I have to smoke because we're like an old married couple. If he does something, I have to do it. Like it activates my brain.
I have you down to 124 now.
Okay. Now I'm the loud one.
So, in the days leading up to Amerithrax, one out of the top 3 bioweapons experts globally, dies. Well, I guess debatably one out of the top 4, but one of those people is an actual quack. So, like, we're just going to ignore him completely. Yeah, no, we do not believe in the death penalty for drug users. Otherwise, I would have succeeded all of the times I tried to kill myself.
We believe in the death penalty for people who smoke weed, though. That's the eugenics that I support. I look like Tom Cruise with sunglasses on. I love it. Like in a sociopath kind of way.
At the time, there's like 4 real bioweapons experts, 3 real bioweapons experts, and 1 pretend bioweapons expert. The man who is a pretend bioweapons expert is also under a pseudonym. His name is Ken Alabek. He's a Soviet expat from their biodefense program who comes over to, I don't know, lie. Like, he comes over in the 60s and says that the U.S. does not have an offensive bioweapons program. Which, like, pre-Nixon was undeniable. Like, Nixon at least formally gives the order to end our bioweapons program, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means that when Ken Alabek was here before Nixon, it was, like, undeniable we had a bioweapons program. It was pretty much public. So Alabek, right after his trip here, ends up defecting. I know you're shocked. He changed his name from Alibekov to Alabek. He's also just a bad scientist. Like, he is not a good scientist. There's no point in killing him. He does, coincidentally, run bioweapons labs in Ukraine, though. As a pure coincidence, he does that.
Relevant topic.
Yeah. That don't exist. Remember, that's Russian propaganda or something. That the U.S. runs bioweapons programs in other countries.
So why is that even a contentious issue?
Like, you know, really frank that, like, that was not true.
I think one of the biggest, like, sort of myths, in the same sense that, like, the idea that, like, the CIA is super, like, invested in keeping all of its secret shit secret. Like half the shit we do is just straight up declassified. Probably actually more. I think most of all of what we've done so far has just been straight up declassified. But like one of the bigger myths is, I think, is that, like, you can't tell when the imperialist press is, like, so sinister and pernicious, and they're gonna propagandize you and trick you. It's actually very easy to tell which articles are, like, written with that kind of bias versus which articles aren't. Like, to the degree that, like, regular journalists can tell. Like not even anti-imperialist or anti-interventionist journalists, but just regular journalists are just like, yeah, that one's, you know, that's a little bit of a mouthpiece.
Yeah, like we talked about the other day with Mencken when he stood there and he was like, well, we think that the Nord Stream pipeline just did that. What? And, like, anyone who repeated that line uncritically was, like, absolutely a fucking moron. Like, the New York Times was fairly uncritical about it, but at least they, like, still made sure to mention that every other country in the world thinks that it was an attack, right?
Yeah.
Whereas our Secretary of State is the only person on Earth who thinks that 3 different explosions happened on the pipeline by coincidence. No, average people are absolutely vulnerable to propaganda, but, like, there is a large difference between, like, the kind of propaganda that people actually fall for, which caters to their interests, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, the average person is also not literate, so.
Right, but also people don't stop having material interests just because, like, they are from a certain country. Or they are from a certain class. Like, the reality is, it is in most Americans' best interests for Russia to be doing worse. Especially like wealthy Americans and all like, you know, temporarily embarrassed millionaires and all that. Well, I mean, yes, the reality of propaganda is different than the like cartoonish expectations of it.
I think the reality of propaganda is itself quite cartoonish. Like, there's a marked difference between the coverage of the Nord Stream pipeline versus, for example, the coverage of the referendum in Ukraine.
Or like, I don't know.
Like, when you read the New York Times, or you read the WAPO, or you read the Wall Street Journal, or you read anything, like, there's like, it's the quality, the difference in quality between the articles of, like, you know, there's like the Nord Stream pipeline, which is like, well, Nord Stream suffers damage explosions. Smitty say are the result of sabotage. Then they'll mention the United States says it was an accident, but most countries don't. Some people, they will mention that some people are pointing at Russia, but they will also say, well, it doesn't seem to be in Russia's immediate interests. There's a difference between something like that and be like, oh, Russian dictator who eats children holds sham referendum in Ukraine to justify imperial invasion. Like, the marked difference is completely obvious to anyone with a functioning brain. Like, not even
Actually,
that it's wrong per se, but just that this is, like, you know, written with that, like, with that specific aim in mind.
so like anthrax and 9/11 are a good example, and because we're on the topic of anthrax, I'm pulling that one. No one believed anthrax came from the Middle East after October 5th. No one. And that's because on October 5th, the letters were released. And the letters were written in this like cartoonish children's handwriting. That would like definitely be funny if it were under slightly different circumstances. Hayes just got very quiet. Did he leave?
I haven't said anything.
Oh, you turned your mic on. Okay. That really does cut down on a lot of noise.
I've been telling you, you need this. You just laughed and shot. You like laughed out of your nose and shot up to like 6 decibels, dude.
I don't know what 6 decibels is. If you want to talk biochem, we can do it. But like, if you want to talk sound science, I don't know how physics work, except in as much as like OChem requires it a little bit.
Yeah, everyone is now telling you. Imagine everybody if Mike had a mic that was my quality. How professional this podcast would appear.
Yes, I know. Laura said I can get one.
Well, then get one.
Is that better?
So it's fine. Listen, I'm just telling you in general. Whatever. Go ahead.
I just cut myself down 20 more %.
No, that's fine. It's not about. No one's complaining about the noise. Just go on about anthrax.
So like anthrax was the kind of like cartoonish over the top propaganda that you are talking about, where like the expectation was that every person believes that every person who is from the Middle East would write a letter in all capital letters with some of the letters written backwards. So this is an important note, while being able to make anthrax that was better than what could be produced at either of the 2 U.S. biodefense labs. Because they ran 56 tests to prove that they could make it and failed every one of them. They didn't come within 4 times as effective as it. So when you measure efficacy of something like anthrax, you measure it in spores per gram, or spores per microgram, as it may be, whatever it is. But it is spores by volume. So when you make very efficient anthrax, the anthrax gets really small. When you open the letter, because it's really small, the powder just kicks up everywhere. Everyone breathes it in, right? The U.S.'s production was 4 times as big. They also like straight up. We've used, repeatedly. Anthrax. We used anthrax on ourselves as a biochemical weapon.
Do you have an example?
The September 13th, or September 15th, September 18th, September 21st of 2001.
So these are the anthrax letters, the famed ones.
Yes. So in the days leading up to that, the Bush White House gets a phone call.
It is not considered ethical when you are doing random attacks on politicians and journalists, no.
Yeah, especially when 2 of the politicians you hit are the opposition to the Patriot Act and the war in Iraq.
In warfare, the use of these kinds of chemical weapons is frowned upon, just speaking generally, I think.
It's also a crime.
Yeah.
Like, it is frowned upon the way that murder is frowned upon in normal society.
Well, when you commit a murder in normal society, usually you don't get away with it, being the key difference.
I really think that depends on how much money you have.
Same with anthrax.
Yeah, right. If your name is Dick Cheney or Donald Rumsfeld, then you can use anthrax on the American populace and get away with it. International law can't be used to prosecute Americans.
And why is that? Is it written in the provisions, or is there something else?
So actually, Iris, they were never determined to be from a specific U.S. military lab. They never were. What they were determined to be from is from the AIM strain, which is primarily kept at Fort Detrick, which is how they assumed that. Mm-hmm. The reality is that Fort Detrick sends out the AIM strain all over the world, everywhere, all the time. Anytime you need anthrax to research for biodefense, you get the AIM strain, because the AIM strain is the most effective strain that we still have existing, because the Soviet stockpile was destroyed, and that was roughly equivalent to the AIM strain, right? Mm-hmm. So all it was the AIM strain, which is the bioweapon standard at this point in history.
Bioweapon Rona?
It doesn't. Like, that is not true. That is a lie that was spread. So the AIM strain also exists at every other U.S. biodefense lab, because we have 3. We have Battelle Memorial Institute in Michigan. We have one in Utah. And we have Fort Detrick in Maryland. Fort Detrick doesn't have the material to dry anthrax, which is how you weaponize anthrax. What they have is the materials to use anthrax in a biodefense capacity, because Nixon made them sell off all of their shit. So, who does have access to that kind of material, right? That's where the question becomes. The answer is 2 companies would, because they have the permission to run that kind of a lab. No, the U.S. military using anthrax on its own citizens is definitely illegal.
Using it in a war context is also illegal?
Yeah, right. It's even if you don't, if I say the U.S. government cannot prosecute me, that doesn't make what I do not illegal. So like the idea that there was a specific chain of command wasn't true. The science that they used to identify the specific type of aims, the report from the National Academy of Sciences fundamentally disagreed with that. Like they said that there was no way that they could have determined that. It was absolutely a lie. Specifically because the methods that we would use now to determine which specific, so like imagine that anthrax was a tomato, right? So if we're saying that this is a Roma tomato, we can check it with our eyes.
Italian explaining anthrax. Imagine a tomato.
Now, if I say that,
You make a good piece of pasta.
so like you have a Roma tomato over here and a Paul Robeson tomato over here,
There he goes.
they look very different visibly. And then, like, anthrax is too small to do that with. You can't just look at it. And even when you do, the variation is so minute that you have to actually fully sequence it out, pretty much. Because otherwise it just like grows in a slightly different pattern, which means you have to sit there and stare at anthrax while it's growing, which I imagine is an incredibly boring thing to do, and requires you paying absolutely perfect attention. Yeah, I'm growing some bioweapons over here. Leave me alone, okay?
Hey.
So what this coincides with, in 2000, there is a man who is formerly a part of Project Coast who works in California, who owns mines in Nevada. He is a biochemist by trade. Obviously, he comes from Project Coast, which is South Africa's bioweapons program. South Africa's bioweapons program gets reorganized into a group called De Organizatia after apartheid ends. De Organizatia is basically like the worst kind of white supremacist criminals they could find laying around, coupled with the people who, under Project Coast, used to run what were called blue programs, which were front organization businesses that became incredibly profitable because they were backed by intelligence. So these people have a lot of money to continue to finance the war against like freedom in South Africa. This dude owns a mine in Nevada. He's a biochemist by trade. He develops this honestly fucking harebrained scheme to use bacteria and genetically modify them so they won't eat gold but will eat everything else. And then just use them to dig a mine. Yeah, I mean it's a plan. Like it never goes anywhere, obviously. But where it does go is his business partner. So this dude then goes into like a sales marketing C-speeder for some company. He shows up to a business negotiation. The dude who he was meeting with, yes. So specifically, it is that the AIM strain comes from the U.S. military. Like it is the U.S. military's intentionally built one. What they do during this is that they lie. So like parts of what they say are absolute lies. Parts of what they say are kind of lies, right? So at first they say that it has tin in it, which would have been used by the Iraqi bioweapons program because the U.S. specifically trains them to do something different from what the U.S. does, so we can still identify it, right? So when you weaponize anthrax, you have to strengthen the spore so that the spore will stay individual. So not only do you dry it, but you also have to like insert a certain amount of metal into the actual cellular structure, because otherwise the cell will collapse when it dies and it won't be like useful. So if it had tin or zinc in it, then it would have been Iraqi. If it had Iraqi or Soviet, if it had silicone in it, then it would have been American. It had silicone in it. A lot of it. So at the time, there's a man in America named Dr. William Patrick. Dr. William Patrick is not a good leader for like false flag bioweapons attack. Great bioweapons expert, brilliant bioweaponeer. He's great at offensive bioweapons. He's good at defensive bioweapons. He knows his shit. He really, really believes that a bioarmageddon is coming any day. You know why you put Peter in charge of the church and not John the Baptist? Because Peter is a little bit skeptical. Also, John the Baptist is headless. It's not a great metaphor, but whatever.
Yeah, doesn't Peter come after John the Baptist, like by
Is already
years?
dead. Yeah. But
and plus, John's got his own. He's got his own things that he's doing. He's got his little Mandeans.
Yeah, but he's also headless now. So
that's true. And you know who did that? A woman. Stay woke, bros.
I will have everyone know that we are probably the only conspiracy podcast that has equal numbers of male and female viewers.
And by equal, that's a recent development. It was 64%
It was 60%,
women.
yeah.
64% female audience.
Until today.
Until today. Well, you posted us on Reddit. That's what tanked the drink.
That did fuck us, yeah. We were your girlfriend's favorite podcast. Now
yeah.
So
no one can figure out why, but
the man who runs Project Coast is a man named Wouter Bassan. Wouter, like Bill Patrick, is a genuine and true believer in a bioarmageddon. The difference between Wouter and Bill Patrick is that Wouter Bassan believes that there is going to be a bioarmageddon and he is going to cause it. He is really sure of that. Whereas Bill Patrick is just genuinely like running around Congress at this point being like, there could be a bioweapon attack any day. You need to stop it. We need to stop. We can't. They could hit us.
I'm cold.
Like,
hold on.
That guy's a terrible bioweapon attack leader. Especially when you need to keep it like hush hush. Hayes has already heard all of this. Fuck him. He's on his own. So Stephen Hatfill, who is what do you mean they don't acknowledge military grade anything being used to advance political agendas? I mean, like, there is a fundamental difference in the biology of the AIM strain that makes it more dangerous, which is, oh no, they absolutely do. Wouter Bassan for sure does. And at the time, so there's a man who gets bandied about in the early days of anthrax named Mr. Z. Mr. Z seems to never exist, or seems to exist, but he might be one of 3 different people, or 4 different people, or 5 different people. So on the one hand, you have Mr. Z, who is potentially Stephen Hatfill, who is the FBI's like second main target. So the first guy the FBI investigates kills himself, which is why he factors into the 97 to 2003 list. The FBI harasses this man. They begin walking up to his family and telling them that he is carrying out the anthrax attacks. They tell his children this in front of their entire grade school class.
Nice.
They tell his wife this in front of her coworkers and peers.
Those kids probably got bullied after that. That sucks.
He ends up blowing his brains out.
Okay.
Which makes him one of 2 people in the anthrax story to kill themselves. So in the days leading up to this, one of the top 4 anthrax experts in the world dies. 4 people from the Israeli bioweapons program go down in a plane crash on their way into somewhere in. There were 11 biochemists in Canada alone who died in the year 2002. Which, like, when we're talking like top end of a very niche field, 11's a lot.
Very bizarre.
Yeah, especially when you consider that the number goes up to almost 45 between 97 and 2003. So at the same time as this is happening, Iowa, which is not actually, yes, Project Coast. So Iowa is where the Ames strain is named for, kind of, but like that's where it's assumed to be named for. It's not actually. It's named after a guy named Ames, who just. But then all of the anthrax gets stored at Iowa.
Who's Minnie?
Yeah, I don't know of any leftists who don't think people get suicided.
I mean, not post Epstein, absolutely.
No, post Epstein, they only think that like the fucking Hout bourgeois get suicided by each other to cover up their own crimes.
Oh. Well, I mean, just as a general rule, though, it doesn't work.
Well, yeah.
People get suicided.
Right. And most of the people, honestly, Project Coast is super cool. Hit me up on Twitter. So I accept and reject the term conspiracy theorist. Like, conspiracy theorist as a heuristic exists because it exists within the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is also a manufactured position. Like, it's become popular on like schizo Twitter to like be like, oh, well, you know, they New York Times published the expose on the fucking CIA admitting that they were like blowing up the term conspiracy theorist to mitigate damage that they could take from the JFK assassination, right?
We don't ever claim that something that we do not have any accurate proof of is unquestionably true. We are
right,
we are closer to legitimate journalists than we are to conspiracy theorists, I want to think.
So I will say this about the anthrax case. What we know is that the people who were under attack during this, and what's his name? I always get him mixed up with the other one. Patron saint of whistleblowers.
Snowden?
No, he's a senator. He's a Republican.
Patron saint of Snow. What are you talking? Ellsberg?
No, he used to be head of the Intelligence Oversight Committee. Grassley. So yes, so Grassley is not allowed to go through the anthrax case.
Turn your phone off, dude.
Suda called me. You should know better. So Grassley is not allowed to go through the anthrax case, which is a strange.
By the way, whenever you and Suda have that phone call about that issue earlier, make sure that I'm on because I want to hear all of it.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
So the compromise that is struck is that Patrick Leahy gets to go through it.
Nice. He'll be good at it, I'm sure.
Well, he was one of the victims. That's like why they couldn't turn it down when Grassley was like, okay, so my compromise is he gets to go through it instead of me. And they were just like, okay, that's going to make us look really bad if we say no to that.
Well, does Leahy find anything?
So Leahy's conclusion is that the Ooh, let me find the exact wording because it is not great. So Leahy's conclusion is that, and I quote, there are people in this government who know more than they want to pretend. There are people who know that this man could not have done it by himself. I cannot tell you for sure that Bruce Ivins was the one who sent those letters, but what I can tell you is that no one man could have. So there's this. So we go from pushing one narrative to another very quickly. The second narrative is very believable. It's much more viable than the first one. The first one is that the Taliban send the letters, or Al Qaeda and the Taliban and Saddam Hussein
Who are all
team
working,
up.
who are all working together.
Yeah, they team up with Iran because these countries are all allies.
Yeah.
And then they come over in the weeks before 9/11, send out these letters, which doesn't make sense because the first letter doesn't land until September 18th. I can tell you that none of the evidence against Bruce Ivins, or at least none of the narrative that is pushed against him, makes sense. So allegedly, he attacks Joshua and Leahy because they are pro-choice Catholics. He is not viciously pro-life. His wife is. He is not. In fact, he specifically mentions in his will that he needs something to be done with his money, like something very weird and specific. And if it is not, then all of his remaining funds should be given to Planned Parenthood. Like, that is not the move of a militant, like, anti-abortion terrorist, right?
No, that's the move of someone who wants to spite the wife.
Well, so it was. I think it's actually more his kids he was worried about because it was supposed to be like his normal will than his wife. Either way, like, the man is like, it's ridiculous to imply that that is why. So, but most people didn't get to look into the case, right? So it doesn't make sense. Like, if you only hear the official narrative, then it makes sense because what they say is, well, Bruce Ivins is a lone wolf terrorist. He is viciously obsessed with abortion, which at the time, there have already been multiple hoax letters. And by multiple, I mean 3,600 from one dude to abortion clinics with anthrax. The idea that he could have sent these to a pro-choice politician is not unbelievable in the public's mind. And then they couple that with painting him as this, like, kind of vicious misogynist. In addition to painting him as a vicious misogynist, they also pay off a therapist to file a restraining order against him, seemingly out of the blue, saying that he said he wanted to hurt other people. So this woman at the time is allegedly Bruce Ivins' addiction counselor. So the story that they leave out of this, right, because they can't, like, openly say this, is that this man who has top secret, secure, compartmentalized clearance is A, an alcoholic, and B, is seeing a felon who just picked up 2 DUIs within the past 6 months, and the DIA signed off on her being his counselor. Maybe. I'm going to tell you right now, I just don't see it happening. The DIA doesn't sign off on people like that.
Mhm.
The Defense Intelligence Agency is good at what they do. Debatably, the DIA is more attached to keeping their secrets than the CIA.
Привет.
Yeah. So what you end up finding out when you look into it is that the letters are mailed from a mailbox in New Jersey. At least 3 of them. So there was this. There were these 2 competing narratives. In the beginning, Bruce Ivins is guilty because he is staying at work late. Now, the real answer to why he's staying at work late is because Bruce Ivins is an alcoholic. And so he was trying to avoid the times when he would normally be driving home to go to the bar. At which point it makes much more sense, right? Like, that's why this man is doing this. Because he's in recovery and he's trying to do better. They're people?
Russians are cool. They're like the Latin Americans of Europe.
I've never disagreed with, like, I've never met a Russian. Ooh, that's not true.
Go ahead.
I used to go to a Ukrainian bar.
And so, what's your opinion on Russians?
There were like quite a few, like straight up white Russian families that would like also be there. They were pretty shitty. That said, most of the like, I don't know, also like the weird dudes who hang around Ruba in Philly don't like.
Anyway, Russians are cool. Like I said, they're like the Latin Americans of Europe, I think. Eastern Europe is like they're spicy, they're dramatic, but they're like, they've got the temper. They've got, they come with gusto.
Just because you're French doesn't mean that the rest of Southern Europe isn't exactly what you just described.
It's like that same dynamic though works in the East and the West. Like if you've met Russians and spent time with Russians, you've probably seen it before, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what's really popular in Russia? Like for Western commentators, inexplicably, but anybody who's met a Russian, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Fucking telenovelas. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, they love them. No, they love them. These people, they understand what we feel like. Exactly. It's exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Also, well, parts of Western Europe get used as cheap labor for Western Europe at this point.
Yeah, they live for drama. I love the Russian people. Also, they're really good at chess, so I have to respect them for that as well.
They are really good at chess.
What was the joke that Levi Rozman made one time where he was just like, this guy's like he's a Russian and he's 2,300, but yeah, that makes sense. Like he was looking at his score and he was just like, why are you 1,600? You should be like 2,300. And he's just like, oh yeah, you're Russian. 2,300 in the West is like 1,600 in Russia as far as ELO goes.
Really?
No, but that's just the joke. Russians are good at chess.
I wasn't sure at like the top end how good they were.
They
like
are
how significant
the Russians are very significantly good at chess.
So the coup in Burkina Faso seems to have some legitimate basis and also somewhat be like a U.S. backdrop, probably. Like it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Russian sashimi sounds delicious.
I have a weird thing about my meat looking uncooked, and if it's frozen, I'm definitely not going to be able to eat it. Like, I can eat raw fish. I can eat raw fish just fine. I don't want to see frozen meat on my plate.
Mike lacks adventure. That is so sad. So sad to see.
Hayes, you drank nothing but alcohol for 21-year-old girls until 2 weeks ago.
That's not true.
You're like, I drink Long Island's.
I do not exclusively drink Long Island's. I did not drink exclusively Long Island's.
I like Midori.
I did not exclusively drink Midori either.
Midori's a felony in my world.
I don't think I've actually ever had Midori.
You're lucky. It's green and tastes like piss.
Well, it's Midori is Japanese for green. I heard that they said they could make a good Long Island variant called a Tokyo tea with it. You're talking to the one of the only. I'm the only person in the entire city who like drinks IPAs, and I find it so disgusting that no one else does it. Everyone hates IPAs.
I don't like IPAs, but that's because I don't like hops. Like, I don't want an overwhelmingly hoppy drink.
Yeah, don't lecture me about drinks for 21-year-old girls anymore. Come on.
I can drink IPAs as long as they are like relatively balanced.
How do you feel about Shiner Bock?
I like Shiner Bock.
Okay. How do you feel about Bud Light?
It's fine.
No, it's not.
It's a beer.
It's a shitty beer.
Actually, I don't drink Bud Light. Browning does, but
Yeah.
the only reason I don't drink Bud Light is because it has Agent Orange in it.
Is that like what Blue Moon has in it?
No, it actually has Roundup in it. Like, there is a non-trace amount of Roundup in Bud Light.
I have been out of the conspiracy game for too long because you just
No,
like,
that's not a conspiracy. That's just like that was just a news article.
Sorry. I mean, like I've been out of the woke world for so long. I don't even because you're always dropping like knowledge on me.
No, this isn't even like woke world knowledge. This is like alcoholic knowledge.
Well, I don't drink Bud Light, so I wasn't paying attention. I probably saw that and forgot about it after immediately going, "Oh, there's Agent Orange in Bud Light. Good, kill him off. Drink a real beer."
Weird related thing. The weirdest LaRoucheite line is that DDT didn't do anything negative to the environment.
Why is that a LaRoucheite line? Where's that come from?
Like, it comes directly from LaRouche.
So they just parrot it? This Bud Light is racist towards the Vietnamese. I do like the idea of a racist beer, but I feel like we can do better than that. All right, ultimate test. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Sapporo or Kirin Ichiban?
Depends on your meal.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So you do beer pairings?
Yeah.
How do beer pairings work? What qualities do you look for?
So like, I mean, it works very similar to how you would do with wine. Like, you go for lighter beers with lighter food.
What makes a beer heavy?
I don't know. Have you ever drank a stout?
So a stout would be
mean,
heavy.
like,
Okay, like a milk
I
stout.
don't mean like Guinness. Like, Guinness is not super heavy as far as
Yeah.
stouts go. But like, when you start getting into the like 11, 12%, fucking Southern Tier used to make Girl Scout cookie beers every year. So they did dessert beers is what it was, but then they ran like Girl Scout cookies during Girl Scout season. But they had this like 13% tiramisu stout that was so fucking good. And it was when I first started drinking like beer that wasn't just Miller High Life or Yingling or Peroni that I stole from my parents.
So between Kirin Ichiban and Sapporo, which one's lighter? It's got to be Sapporo, right?
Yeah.
So lighter meals would be like a nice like raw fish dish would be lighter?
Yeah, it'd be great.
And then something more savory, cooked maybe.
Yeah, because you don't want to overpower the beer or overpower the food.
Nice.
So like, you would like, stouts are mostly after dinner drinks, but like, you know, a nice heavy double bock, like where it's still got that darkness and the rich maltiness to it, with like barbecue, great. I can throw it on with some brisket.
What were we talking about?
This is really what Hayes and I are here for. And I realized on the podcast, like, I texted Hayes while I was finishing editing episode 2. I was like, we really talk about food a lot in this one.
Yeah, we could do that. We could be review bra, but two of us.
Quick poll, chat. Would any of you watch Hayes and I talk about food for an hour?
Oh my god, we should do Timber Sycamore exclusively as like a Hot Wings challenge. While we talk about the CIA.
Oh god, that's gonna get so bleak so fast. If Hayes and I are ever sitting together, just know that one of us is gonna be sweating bullets from eating too much spicy food. I have money on Haze.
I live in Texas, asshole. Are you kidding me? Spicy food? Mexicans put fucking chili powder in their candy.
As you should. Milk chocolate's disgusting, and the only way that it's tolerable is with chili powder.
I disagree, in the sense that I don't think chili powder can save milk chocolate.
Yeah.
This is an anti-milk chocolate.
Dark chocolate with chili powder, though.
No, that's delicious. Oh my god, this is an anti-milk chocolate stream.
Yeah.
No, we like our chocolate to be Malcolm X, not Wayne Brady. Just like our coffee. Lazda, yes, she agrees.
Why do you always say Laura's stream? Like, it's like...
Why do I say Lazda?
Yeah.
Because I enjoy it, and that's the person's name. Sorry, Laura. Laura says yes. Laura agrees. She likes the Malcolm X chocolate.
No, it's not.
It's got to be too black, too strong, you know?
American chocolate is always kind of bad. But if you can get something that's like a high enough percentage of cacao, it's fine.
Yeah, American chocolate's not bad on principle. Just most of it. It's
Right.
not so much that American chocolate is bad, so much as like American consumer tastes are bad. And so the bad chocolate is most popular. But like they have some good high cacao.
I told someone bell peppers are sweet, and I thought they were gonna fucking murder me.
You didn't know bell peppers were sweet?
No, I did.
Who did?
This kid got super angry when I told him that. And he was like, they're not sweet, they're a vegetable. They're a vegetable, they're not sweet. And I was like, no, they are literally sugary.
No, they're a little bit bitter. A little bit, like in terms of taste, but like it's like a mixture. It's like a bittersweet.
Yeah, in the same way that like
I think
maltiness is also slightly bitter.
I was gonna say because it doesn't taste like a fruit, but it's like an apple or a pear. But like there is like a hint of something in there, and I want to say it's like a hint of bitter taste. I don't know if it's something else. Yeah, they are a fruit. They have seeds. That's true. But you know.
Yeah, but like so is a tomato.
Tomatoes.
I'm not putting either one in a fruit salad.
I'd put a tomato in a fruit salad.
I put tomato in most things, honestly. I really like tomatoes.
He's fucking. Yeah, we're all familiar with your Dago tendencies.
Yeah, you just need to take a tomato, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, some oregano, some red pepper flakes, eat it.
Yeah,
Great.
there it is. You want to put any rosemary on that, fucking asshole?
Rosemary, you have to cook. I'm not a fucking moron.
Of course.
If I was making like...
Just make some fucking bruschetta at that point.
Yeah.
Honestly. That shit's delicious.
Thank you.
We're talking about food again.
I made grilled cheese one time with tomato as the bread.
We're both ED girls, so we're always hungry.
I ate today.
Nice. That's progress. I made some meatballs out of venison.
Oh yeah, I forgot your dad had all that venison.
No,
Oh, you got the venison?
Yeah, he would not know. He does not buy anything but like chicken and maybe steak. And seafood. He buys a lot of like shrimp.
I'm anti-poultry, really. I think that we should keep farming cows and get rid of chickens.
I'm okay with chickens because I feel ethically best about eating chickens. Because I've seen cows on a farm, and cows are like cool. They're like, they just kind of sit there and they moo at you.
I
and
do not care.
They're minding their business. But it's like chickens are assholes. So whenever I eat a chicken, I feel fucking nothing. I feel zero guilt.
I feel zero guilt about eating cows, honestly.
I do too, as well. But like, if someone ever brought it up to me, like, hey, you're eating a cow, aren't cows cool? And I'm like, yeah, cows are kind of cool. That sucks. But chickens, I would never feel bad for.
No, like chicken and horse, I could eat contentedly. I hate horses.
I like horses. Horses are assholes, though. I will say that. But they're sweet too. Like it's
when I was young and super self-hating. I dated this like insanely religious Catholic girl who, when we split up told me that the reason that I was adopted out of foster care is because no one will ever love me. Uh, which, like,
Doesn't
first
make
of all,
sense.
bad
Somebody,
weak argument. Second of all,
yeah, because if you have like if you were living with your birth parents, like they could also just not love you but take care of you out of convenience. To be a foster care child or an adopted child, somebody somewhere had to want you at some point.
yeah, her
So
father routinely drove drunk with her in the car. Clearly, he didn't care that much about her.
right?
I did not use that as a comeback at the time. I've gotten meaner. Uh, she also called me
And
a hat
cleverer.
faggot, which was super funny. Uh, but like, so my best friend was dating her year younger cousin. We were all out at her aunt and uncle's horse farm, the girl who my friend was dating, and him and I both had never been around a fucking horse before.
So
And
you've never
nobody,
seen one.
I have like seen one, like at a circus,
Not up close. Well, not
like
even
at a
like,
circus, 20 feet, 30 feet.
yeah, but not as equals. Because now you're equals.
We're never equals. I saw how big that motherfucker was. Don't lie to me.
No, I mean like now you're like when the horse is at a circus, he's performing for you, like he's the service worker. But now it's like you guys are just like you're both you're individuals, just hanging out in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was like, Gabby was super specific with me. Like, go like this, be gentle, be very slow.
Yes. Horses are like scared.
Alex's girlfriend told him nothing. Alex insists to this day that he had sex with this girl. He did not. He has admitted to everyone that he was flaccid and like used his thumb to get inside her and
Okay.
considers that sex.
Okay.
Which is like a weird story to tell, but like also
just put him on blast for everyone. Okay.
Yeah, I put him on blast in front of everyone all the time.
Okay, that's just I don't.
He would do it to me too.
Well, that's not. Yeah, that's not cool, dude. But okay.
And I do it to me.
Do you do it to me?
No, but only because like
my record is squeaky clean and I've never done anything wrong.
No, only because I put you on blast in private all the time.
Oh, but you're gonna put him on blast in public.
Yeah, I have spent years of him not learning a single fucking lesson. Like, there's only so many times you can repeat the same sentence to someone before you just give up.
That's true. I put you on blast for the chess story because I was fine to let it go for the first like 5 or 6 times, but eventually I was just like, all right.
You should have.
Mike needs to be humbled a little bit.
There's a 0% chance I could beat you in chess. I know that.
That's fine. That's not even true. Like, you're smart. You could do it.
There's this Michael Jordan video where he says that the difference between a good man and every other man is that a good man can talk shit when he's down.
You said that was Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing he's ever said.
Yeah. No, it's definitely the best thing Jordan's ever done. Jordan's Hall of Fame speech straight up was just like, yeah, I feel bad for my kids because they'll never be as great as I am. And they'll always have to live in my shadow. And it's right after fucking David Robinson stood there and was like, in lieu of giving me gifts, I would appreciate if everyone would donate to the school that I help run. I run a school for autistic. So he has like a severely autistic son. And he was like, I run a school for children with severe mental disabilities. If you could help donate to that school, I would really appreciate it. I sink my money into it. But like, would really appreciate if other people could help out with this. And he was like, at the end of his speech, he was like, the only thing I hope for is that I can be half the man that my son is today. Because I have learned so much more from them and from helping at the school than I ever learned from. I'm going to be honest, I excelled at most of what I did. Like he did. He was brilliant. He joins the Naval Academy, gets kicked out of the Navy because he's too tall. Which, like, if we're coming up with reasons to get kicked out of the Navy, what's your problem? I'm 6'11". Well, yeah, I guess. Not putting you on a boat, that's for damn sure.
Oh, they
Uh,
thought he would. They would thought he would monopoly. He would like totally wreck the dating economy of gay sex on the naval ships. He's 6'11". How can anybody else compete? It's not fair.
he shoots up 10 inches between his senior year of high school and his junior year of college.
Damn. I had a chance to grow and I missed it.
Yo, as someone who wears size 13 shoes and is only 6'1", I'm still mad that I am not 6'4" because that's what everyone else with size 13 shoes is. I blame the heavy drug use.
I blame the fact that like if you were like 6'4", then being size 13 wouldn't mean that you have big feet proportional to the rest of your body. I'm mad that I'm not like 5'11", considering I wear like a size 10.5, and everybody else who's like my height wears like a size 8.
10.5 is easy to find.
That's not the point of the story, Michael.
That's why I'm mad about being a size 13.
No, that's like completely beyond the point of the. No, you're mad because you're not 6'4", is what we were talking about.
No, I'm mad because I can't find fucking shoes, and if I'm gonna not be able to find shoes, I'd like to at least get the height that goes along with it.
You were missing the point of the comparison. I'm 5'11" and wear a size 12. See that?
It's a dick joke. I'm not acknowledging it. We're above that here.
Yeah, what I've from working in a shoe store, it doesn't seem like height and shoe size are like very strongly correlated. They do have correlation. I'm not gonna. No one's 5'4" and wearing a size 13. No one's 6'7" and wearing a size 7. But like, there's a lot of variance in shoe sizes. There's not like, if you're a certain height, like what's the range for what if you're like 5'10", average shoe size range is going to be pretty vast.
Just imagine like Dirk Nowitzki walking around with Barbie feet.
Like at 5'10", at 5'9", 5'10", average shoe size, I would say low end is like 8.5, high end is like 11.5. Like there's a lot of variance. There's not like one. There's not like it's hard to talk about. Like that's why I say they're correlated, obviously, but they're like kind of not super strongly correlated.
Alex, you missed almost nothing. We talked about food and then our shoe size for a little bit. It's Sunday. We're really just here to hang out.
It's Saturday.
It is Saturday. Peter is not here.
Who's Peter?
Peter Martinelli.
Oh.
The one who is not related to your family in Buffalo.
Yeah. I'm surprised you remember my family in Buffalo.
What do you mean? I pay attention to what people say.
No one else does, not to me. Not a single person has watched the podcast.
Peter.
Not that I know, though.
Suda.
Suda has not watched the podcast.
He has now.
He has now. Finally.
And Suda's your friend, not mine.
Right now, probably. Laura, we're really stretching the definition of like people that I know. Oh, Evelyn watched it. Listen
No,
to
she
it.
didn't. We don't have any Creek watches.
No, not the other Evelyn. Different Evelyn.
Oh, Noemi?
Noemi. Well, again, stretching the definition of who I know. I'm trying to think about people I've seen in person.
Once upon a time, Alex, I would have given you my social security number.
Yeah.
I worked too hard to get my credit score up from being a 422 to ever give that shit out.
That's
You know
crazy.
how long you have to work to get your score from being starting with a 4 to starting with a 7? It takes a long time.
My credit score has been like frozen at like a fucking something starting with a 7 or an 8 forever, so I feel that. Like it's not going up any higher.
So yeah, like once upon a time, I would have just given it to you because I would have been better off if you took my identity. I would have pinned more shit on you.
Yeah.
I would have been like, he is the one who took out that payday loan, not me. Do you remember when I was...
Is that the new meta?
What?
Instead of stealing identities, we have other people steal ours. It's like if you want to be hiding, that's fine. I don't even want to be hiding right now. That's cool.
No, my identity is too good now.
No, my identity sucks still.
I worked really hard to get mine to be tolerable.
Yeah. I've worked really hard and it's only gotten worse.
That's not true.
Debatable. But in any case.
No, like objectively, it's not true. Like, you are more sociable now than you were when I met you.
I don't know if that's true either. What's coming up, RE Burkina Faso? We already talked about Burkina Faso.
Not really.
I would like to
We
move
said
on.
we
We
said
need to-
like 6 words about it.
Well, we need to check something off the list just to say that we did it. Otherwise, the stream's going to go on for 5 hours, and I would prefer we don't do that.
Well, I mean, we talked about the strange strings of deaths.
Yeah, okay, so we'll talk about Burkina Faso a little bit, and we'll wrap up.
Yeah.
Cool, because there's a certain conversation we need to have, so.
Yeah. Suda, don't go to bed. All right, so when we talk about Burkina Faso, it's important that we also talk about another coup that happened recently. Which is in Mali, by Gaiteg. So with Gaiteg, there are 2 coups, 9 months apart. The first time Gaiteg takes power, he does it under the guise of ostensibly stopping. Well, so no, not under the guise of. Like, he is generally welcomed as like the new leader, at least briefly, because the opposition is the Tuareg, who were raped Muammar Gaddafi to death with a knife. So, like, he looked good by comparison. The bar is on the floor, and he managed to walk right over. That was like their polling practice. They were like, "Have you ever raped someone to death with a knife?" And he said no. And they were like, "Well, then you're the better option, yeah." Which is like not a bad standard to use, honestly, if the other side can't say the same.
It's pretty weak.
Yeah. So where we come to is that Burkina Faso ultimately has some genuine reasons to be unhappy with Damiba. Specifically, 3.5 million people out of 21 million are food insecure. 20% increase from 2021. Again, significant numbers. 630,000 people are facing starvation. It's the world's second largest displacement crisis. And the number of malnourished children in the city of Dori has doubled between January and May. So things are not awesome, right? On a scale from like 1 to 10, 1 being terrible, 10 being killing it, it's definitely not a 10. So Burkina Faso got sanctioned by this for the original coup by like some portions of Western Africa. The problem is that like now those same batshit insane militants that were like running amok before are now into the Sahel, which is the region that includes Burkina Faso, and have been ramping up their attacks pretty consistently. And there is a trend that has developed. So since 2008, there have been 9 coups by U.S. trained soldiers, not counting this one. 8 of those have been successful. So, I mean, I guess what you can say is that the U.S. is good at training people. Not that it is ever to that country's benefit. So, Gaita Zita, who is the man who carries out the coup who's ousted by Diendere in 2014-2015 from Burkina Faso. Diendere is trained by the U.S., so is Zita, so is Damiba. So at least those 3 are all U.S. trained. And then, of course, the 2 by Gaita, the first one where he ends up as VP and the second one where he ends up as president, along with a laundry list of others. They were, none of these dudes were U.S. military. They were all
trained in the U.S.
Members of their national military. Diendera is weird because he gets Langley training.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, like he goes to
top
Langley
level.
He goes to Langley for intelligence training, which is honestly kind of impressive. They managed to oust him. But I do know that the Army Field Manual 3130B specifically mentions that when you are training, so they mentioned that in Intel they will line up with their equivalent position, and the U.S. officer will train them to do the job better, right? But you always train them to do the job just worse enough than you that they could not make up the gap on their own if they were exceptionally skilled. So that way you can always have an edge on your opponent or potential opponent in the future. So yeah, I can see why the U.S. officially denies that manual existing. It's hey, by the way, we're giving you all subpar training so that we can still be better than you. For some reason, I can't imagine that sitting well with Dinah. And, those SOA boys, they were always really hands-on. Our head of security assistance in West Africa made the statement that sometimes we overlook long-term goals.
You sweet summer child.
You should look into SOA Watch, because SOA Watch actually pursues that goal. They're not SOA Watch anymore. They are still SOA Watch, but they don't exclusively watch the School of the Americas anymore because it's not called that. The School of the Americas turned out more war criminals per year than any institution in history except maybe Harvard. So our head of security assistance in West Africa said that we overlooked long-term goals. Yeah. Yeah, because the U.S. never comes into your country and trains you for the benefit of your country. That's not the game.
It's not humanitarian.
No. What we do is we come into your country and we train you to, I don't know, cut the intestines out of a child and hang another child with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real thing that the CIA did when they were training someone. So with that in mind, the head of AFRICOM made the statement that training by the U.S. instills a deep respect for the laws of conflict, subordination to civilian control, and respect for human rights. And that military seizures of power are and always have been inconsistent with U.S. military training. Hayden.
Yes, I'm trying to. I was going to tell you I can't actually read the Twitch chat on Twitch.
Oh, really?
Yep. Well, that's just me. I don't know. Because I can see it on here.
Oh, okay.
That might be something. I might have to work on that. You wanted to? Yes, you said my name. You wanted to ask me a question?
Are military seizures of power are now and always have been inconsistent with U.S. military training?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
The head of AFRICOM said that military seizures of power are now and always have been inconsistent with U.S. military training.
Inconsistent in what ways?
As in, the U.S. does not train people to take over the government through military force.
Well, he seems to think that that's evident from U.S. military training practices, that there's some kind of discrepancy. Which, A, does not actually forbid the possibility that they are still U.S. trained. Do I understand you correctly?
No. Also Laura's right. It is because we're getting two different Twitch streams right now.
Oh, okay.
So what they're saying is that people who were trained by the U.S. are trained to be instilled with a deep respect for the laws of conflict, subordination to civilian control, and respect for human rights, and that military seizures of power are and always have been inconsistent with the U.S. military's training for other countries.
That does not actually, well, one, that does not seem to be... So I still want to harp on the point that, like, the United States does not need to train you to be a war criminal for there to be the explicit expectation for you to do war crimes. If they are training you not to be a war criminal, and there is also the explicit expectation not to do war crimes, that still does not forbid you from doing war crimes.
Right, like when you recruit the most vicious human being you can find, and you're like, you have to stop doing crimes now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, what can I do instead? And you're like, go skin a dog. I don't know. I don't fucking care. Just don't skin the human being.
Like,
and he's
so
like,
when you talk about like saying that like to deny the allegations that there are like U.S. trained soldiers that are instigating these conflicts, if you want to dispute that and say that it's inconsistent with training, you would have to look at like actual, like something actually tangible, real tactics. Like people have done this in reverse. I remember that there's like if anybody doesn't know this, like there's a weird trademark in all of the Michael Mann movies, like Collateral with Tom Cruise being one of them, is that whether or not it is explicitly stated, all of the main characters like Tom Cruise in Collateral, despite not ever being mentioned as being military, always carry their guns and move about in an actual active scene using like real US military training. Like the way that he holds his gun and the way that he moves around is supposed to be indicative that he does have a military past. Like it'd be shit like that, or talking about, I don't know, the way that Soviets moved on the battlefield versus the Germans, because they had different methods, different means of achieving these objectives. But what he is instead proposing is that there are some kind of like very general ethical considerations that indicate that they are not US trained. One of which is like not actually even really consistent with US history, being that like the United States has some kind of like very deep respect for the people of the country that they're occupying or for the rule of order, neither of which seem to be true. Thank you. I love my cat too.
I also love your cat, and I believe her.
Yeah, no, I don't believe her. Don't believe her when she cries, but...
You should believe her when she cries. She's not lying. So like, we're going to get into this a little bit more coming up in the podcast because it becomes very significant. So the School of the Americas name has now changed to the Western Hemisphere Institute for Security Cooperation.
Fuck me.
A much more boring name Um, but this issue has come up before. So the Institute itself explicitly denies accusations of teaching torture. Now, I am going to say that, like, as an organization, you should never have to publicly deny that you teach torture, right? In 1999, the School of the Americas FAQ had several answers denying the accusations of torture, such as, question, what about the accusation that the school teaches torture and murder? Answer, absolutely false. The school teaches U.S. Army doctrine, which is based on 200 years of success.
And then about 30 years of failure.
Well, yeah, but also, they explicitly did not answer the question. Are you teaching people torture and murder? No, we're teaching them doctrine based on 200 years of success. Those are completely different questions. Where does your military theory come from? 200 years of success. What are you teaching them? Torture and murder? 200 years of success. No, those sentences aren't, like, that's not the way you end that question. WinSec says that its curriculum includes human rights and that, quote, no school should be held accountable for the actions of its graduates. Harvard and Yale agree. Human Rights Watch says that, quote, training alone, even when it includes human rights instructions, does not prevent human rights abuses, as Hayes mentioned.
Like, it's just not it's not a coherent argument.
Yeah.
Like, again, these people are not American. They do not have American training because they committed war crimes. And Americans are taught not to commit war crimes.
Alex, it is worth noting that some of the things that they actually taught people to do were things like, I don't know, skin them and then run salt over their skin. Like, the narco-terrorists don't come from nowhere. They come from Contras units. According to Congressman Joe Kennedy, of all fucking people, the U.S. Army School of the Americas is a school that has run more dictators than any other school in the world. Again, AFRICOM and WinSec are basically the same place when they are training someone. Like, it's not a coincidence that if you come out of one, that, like, the other also trains you to do the same thing, right? Like, here's the thing. It would be, if it was exceptional, then I would agree with Hayes that, like, that's the argument that we should be making. But the thing is, like, if most of the people you crank out of your school are war criminals, like, if you have like a 2% war criminal graduation rate, like Harvard, right? That's one thing. When you have like an 84% war criminal graduation rate, all of a sudden I have to start thinking that maybe you're teaching like a war crimes degree. What's your master's in? War crimes. Like, that's what most of these people have to answer. I mean, you have what? Colonel Albert Quijano of the Colombia Army Special Forces, who's arrested for providing security and mobilizing troops. For Diego Leon Montoya Sanchez, aka Don Diego, the leader of Norte del Valle Carte. SOA Watch said in a statement that it matched the names of those in the scandal with its database of attendees at the Institute. He had attended courses, and he was an instructor who taught there. I mean, every U.S. school has ties to the U.S. Army. Like, fucking MIT. Christ. Other former students include Salvadoran Colonel, the Alcatel Battalion, leader Domingo Monterosa, and other members of this group who are responsible for El Mazote. Frank Roman, who's the leader of Tonton Mapu, which is responsible for the San Jean Bosco massacre. Honduran General Luis Alonso Discoa, who's a graduate of the school who later on commands Battalion 316, a military death squad. Two of the highest officers of the former so two of the guys who betrayed the Venezuelan government and who are charged with narco trafficking are students who studied psychological operations at the SOA in 95 and 91.
My cat thought it would be really funny to knock over the ice again.
I thought it was funny when your cat did it.
All right, guys, so that's the stream.
She's very good and pure. She's never done anything wrong.
Yeah.
Fun. Do you remember when the Venezuelan army was arresting dudes for narco trafficking case?
What year was that?
2018.
I believe so. How does that relate?
So two of the guys who were involved in that were in PSYOPs classes at the SOA in 95 and 91.
Wait, Suda just said cheers, boys. I think we have to end the stream. We have to go get him. He's trying to go to bed.
Yeah, we have to go get Suda, and I'm going to beat his ass. So.
All right, this has been Timber Sycamore with Haydn DePriest and
Michael Petroselli.
And maybe someday Sudarshan Moodley.
Hopefully
and
not.
also maybe someday Nusha Samier.
No.
No, that could happen.
It's not.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
When I'm a corpse.
Don't give him any ideas.
I'll stream alone. I don't care.
No. Please take me with you. I'll ban it. No, fuck those guys. Take me with you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.